Okay, so between the lighting situation and today's topic, it seemed like it was a better idea to move to a different place. And I chose the swing set, obviously, today because my topic today for my MS video blogging is going to be motherhood and MS. As I mentioned on the first video entry, I have two daughters. They are 6 and 2, and both obviously were born after I knew that I had MS. One of the things that was always sort of nice about this kind of thing is that it doesn't really, I never perceived it as being something that was going to interfere with my potential to be a parent. I probably could stop swinging. It never entered my mind to not have kids. So, following doctor's advice, when we decided we were going to try to get pregnant, I stopped taking the Avonex because that wasn't really, there's been no information about how safe or unsafe something like that might be. So I stopped taking the Avonex. We were very fortunate. It was not very difficult to conceive for us. So it happened very quickly, and had a wonderful pregnancy, completely without event. My OB had never had an MS patient before, and so he was a little nervous. And as a result, he had me do a lot of ultrasounds. I had one every month of my pregnancy, so that was kind of a nice benefit to the whole thing, to be able to see the baby all the time. She was breech, so there was never a question about whether there was going to be a regular delivery or a C-section. She was breech from the very first ultrasound, every ultrasound we ever had. She never thought about turning. He had said to me one time, if she does turn, then he didn't have any problems with labor, but he just didn't want it to go on forever. If it wasn't progressing, then he probably would want to think about C-section sooner than he might with someone else. And there's a good reason for that, and I agreed with it. And the biggest danger is really after the birth, and how exhausted you are and how tired, and you're worn out from this long labor. Then you're more at risk for having an exacerbation. The other decision that we had to make was about breastfeeding, and at the time the conventional wisdom was that it was not a good idea to be off the medication during the recovery from the labor and delivery, and and that you're most at risk in that first month or two after the baby is born for an exacerbation. So the best course of treatment would be to go back on your interferon as quickly as possible, and of course that would be prohibitive to the breastfeeding. So that's what I did. I took my first Avonex shot 7 days after she was born, never breastfed, and we have a wonderful, happy, well-adjusted child who's quite intelligent and everything else that goes with that. So then with number 2, it was, I never had a problem, no exacerbations, everything was great. And then with number 2, we elected to have a C-section. It just, it was our style. We were fine with not having, it was nice to know the date and be in control of the situation and be able to do everything. Same course of, with the medicine, went off the Avonex, got pregnant, had a baby, had a C-section, had a baby, went back on the Avonex, didn't breastfeed. But I remember at the between the two times, it seems like the conviction with which people were saying, you absolutely shouldn't breastfeed, seemed to have waned a little bit. I think that today probably there's a little bit more open idea about delaying your medication if you feel good, and breastfeeding if you really feel like it. Now I may be totally off because I haven't researched that in a number of years, but it seemed like at the time when I had my second child it was more of a it's up to you sort of decision. With clearly the doctors are going to want to be more conservative, but they weren't going to fight a mom on it. It seemed a bit more stricter the first time around. I don't know. Anyway, being a mom and having MS, has it really affected it? I don't think so. I've had some minor exacerbations. The girls never really have noticed much. They weren't old enough at the time to really key in on what was going on, and we haven't really discussed it with them. They don't know. It's not something that I see holding a secret from them about. But they're just not old enough to really comprehend it yet. So it would probably be more scary now than it would be anything else if I talked to them about it. So given that, that is today's video entry on being a mom and having MS. Bye.